10-year-old Bastian Balthazar Bucks prepares for another day of school. At the breakfast table, he tells his father that he dreamed of his mother, who passed away due to an illness a year ago. Bastian's father, who has not gotten over the tragedy himself, tells Bastian that he has allowed his mind to stray and tells Bastian that he received a letter from his teacher saying he was drawing horses in his maths book. Unicorns, corrects Bastian under his breath. But his father continues, noting that Bastian did not try out for the swim team. Bastian tries to explain that he wanted horseback riding lessons instead, but his father reminds him that Bastian is too afraid to even get on one, much less ride it. His father then leaves for work, telling him that he needs to keep his feet on the ground and pay more attention at school. On his way to school, Bastian is confronted by some bullies who tell him to hand over his lunch money. When Bastian produces none, they pick him up and throw him into a garbage dumpster in the alley. Bastian climbs out but encounters them again. This time, they chase him and he escapes by ducking into an old bookstore. The owner, Mr. Carl Conrad Coriander, scoffs at Bastian, thinking him to be another child interested only in arcade games and comic books, but Bastian names all the real books he has read, including Treasure Island and The Lord of the Rings. His interest roused, Coriander asks what Bastian is doing in his bookstore, and Bastian tells him that he is hiding from some bullies. He asks why Bastian doesn't stand up for himself, and Bastian only shrugs. Bastian then notices the peculiar book Coriander is reading. The man explains that it is a special book and quite dangerous, not like the safe books that Bastian is used to reading. He says that while reading it, a person may become immersed in the story to the point where he or she feels like they're living the tale, but there is always the guarantee that they can put the book down and return to reality. He tells Bastian that the book is not for him and sets it down before returning to his duties. Bastian stares at the book, titled The Never-Ending Story, with a medallion comprised of two intertwining snakes on the cover. When Coriander is not looking, Bastian takes the book and puts it in his bag, leaving a note for Coriander explaining that he will return the book later. Bastian arrives to school late to see that his class is busy taking a test. He goes up to the school's attic, his secret place where he finds quiet refuge, and he settles in and begins to read the book. In a dark wooded area, two creatures known as Nighthawk and Teeny Weeny have stopped to rest during a long journey. Suddenly, the sound of loud crashing is heard and a giant rock biter arrives on a rock cycle. He tells the others about something indescribable that is destroying the realm where he comes from in the north. Nighthawk and Teeny Weeny explain that they have both seen the effects of this strange nothing in their parts of Fantasia. They've all been sent by their people to seek help from the childlike Empress. All three continue their journey together to the Ivory Tower, home of the Empress of Fantasia. When they reach Fantasia, Nighthawk makes his way to the main floor of the auditorium where a man named Chiron addresses the crowd, who have come for answers as well. Chiron explains that the Empress is ill and that the Nothing, the force behind all the disturbances, may be responsible. However, a great warrior of the Plains people named Atreyu has been summoned and he could hold the key to saving their world. Atreyu then steps forward, and to the surprise of Chiron and the assembly, is revealed to be a young boy. Chiron is unconvinced and claims that they summoned Atreyu the warrior, not Atreyu the child. Atreyu boldly answers that he is the only one known by this name, and bravely accepts what quest the Empress has set for him. Chiron then explains the Empress's request. Atreyu must find a cure for her and save their world from the Nothing. He is given the Auron, a medallion comprised of two intertwining snakes that will guide and protect him on his journey. Atreyu then sets out across Fantasia on the back of his horse Artax. Unknown to him, a wolf-like creature emerges from its cave in another realm of the kingdom and sets out after his trail. Atreyu and Artax search through a number of places but find no cure for the Empress. Eventually, they decide to go to the swamps of sadness to seek the advice of Morla, the Ancient One. As they cross through the swamps, the sadness that lingers in this region takes hold of Artax, who stops in his tracks and begins to sink in the bog. Though Atreyu tries to bring his horse back from sadness, Artax is consumed by the swamp, much to the heartbreak of both Atreyu and Bastian. Atreyu continues alone and soon finds a giant mound. As he approaches, the mound suddenly rises up and is revealed to be an enormous turtle, none other than Morla. As Bastian continues reading in the school attic, he cries out in shock, and somehow his shout is heard by both Atreyu and Morla in the swamp of sadness. Morla explains to Atreyu that he does not know how to save the Empress, but tells him to seek the Southern Oracle. Atreyu's heart sinks when he hears the Oracle resides 10,000 miles away. As he trudges through the swamps, the sadness creeps up on Atreyu, and he slowly begins to sink as the wolf creature closes in on him. Then, a cloud burst appears in the sky, and a dragon figure flies down and lifts Atreyu from the swamps, just as the wolf creature lunges forward. Atreyu later awakens to find himself clean and in the company of a white luck dragon named Falkor. Falkor explains that Atreyu spoke in his sleep, eventually revealing his name and his quest. Falkor has brought him 9,891 miles along his 10,000-mile journey to the Southern Oracle. Not far away is a small hovel where Atreyu is introduced to Engiwook and Urgel. Engiwook has been studying the Southern Oracle for some time through his giant telescope and shows Atreyu the path through 2 gateways which will lead him there. The first gate is comprised of 2 giant Sphinx statues. Atreyu learns that any man who feels he is worthy is permitted passage, but the Sphinxes judge whomever comes before them and destroy anyone who feels a tinge of doubt. Atreyu watches as a mounted rider attempts to pass, but he is shot down by beams of fire shot from the Sphinx's eyes. Atreyu goes to the gate to test his merit, but becomes fearful when he sees the body of the rider. As the Sphinx's eyes begin to open, Atreyu dodges forward, just missing the beams. Engiwook is ecstatic that Atreyu has made it through, but tells the others with warning that Atreyu must now pass through the magic mirror gate, a large reflective gateway that shows a person what they truly are inside. Men have fled screaming from the sight of their inner selves. As he journeys from the first gate towards the second, Atreyu passes through a snowy landscape until he finds himself at the mirror gate. Looking into it, he is shocked to see a little boy sitting in a room reading a book. The boy is Bastian. As Bastian reads this, he gets scared and throws the book away. After a moment of contemplation, Bastian picks the book up once more and continues reading. Atreyu finds his way through the mirror gate and finally comes across the Southern Oracle, an object resembling the Sphinx with wings. A voice echoes from it and reveals what must be done to save the childlike Empress. She must be given a new name. Atreyu is certain that he can do this, but the Oracle informs him that it must be done by a human child, and that they can only be found beyond the boundaries of Fantasia. The voice encourages Atreyu to hurry as his facade begins to crumble. Atreyu returns to Falkor and they go off in search of Fantasia's borders. However, they soon encounter the Nothing, and Atreyu is knocked off Falkor's back. He awakens on an unknown shoreline and finds that he's lost the Orin from around his neck. Desolate, he wanders the landscape until he encounters the Rockbiter, who laments that his friends Nighthawk and Teeny Weeny were taken from him by the Nothing. He mourns the fact that he was unable to protect them and now awaits the same fate. Atreyu then wanders into a cavern where he is surprised to see cave paintings that appear to have chronicled his journey so far. As he reaches near the end, he sees an image of a wolf-like creature with green eyes and sharp fangs. Something stirs nearby and Atreyu leaves the cavern and comes face to face with a wolf-like creature, partially hidden in shadows. It greets Atreyu and claims that its name is Gmork before promising to make Atreyu its last victim. Atreyu promises not to be defeated as he is a warrior, but Gmork scoffs when Atreyu admits he's not able to fight the Nothing since he can't find Fantasia's boundaries. Gmork reveals that Fantasia has no boundaries, since its existence is shaped by the imagination of humans. Since humans have slowly given up on their imaginations and dreams, the Nothing has been consuming Fantasia. It admits that it is a servant of the Nothing, bent on gaining power and control, and was sent to kill the only person capable of stopping it, Atreyu. Angry, Atreyu reaches for a wooden shank and shouts that if he is to die, he will do so fighting. He then tempts Gmork to fight him. Since he is Atreyu and the target of its search, Gmork lunges at him, but Atreyu manages to kill it, stabbing it with a wooden shank. After Atreyu has killed Gmork, the force of the Nothing begins to tear the land apart. Atreyu clings to a tree, crying out for Falkor. Falkor finds Atreyu as well as the Orin and saves him. The storm that Atreyu is caught in is the end of Fantasia, with nothing remaining of the land but small fragments floating in a black space. Atreyu sadly admits that he has failed, but wonders if the ivory tower might still exist. Using the Orin, he requests that it lead the two of them to the ivory tower if it still stands. The Orin does so, and the tower can be seen still in one piece, floating on a piece of land in the void. Atreyu ascends to meet the childlike Empress, who asks why Atreyu is so sad. Atreyu claims he failed, but the Empress says that he has brought the human child with him. The Empress tells Atreyu that his journey was necessary for the human child to follow along with their adventures. Bastian cannot believe that they are talking about him, but the Empress soon reveals revelations regarding the bullies that chased him as well as the bookstore. Then a large tremor shakes the tower and Atreyu is injured. The Empress pleads to Bastian through the book to say her name, as this will save her and their world. Bastian is torn as he seems to be giving into a flight of fancy, rather than keeping his feet on the ground as he said he would to his father. Finally, Bastian calls out the name for the Empress, Moonchild, and the attic of the school goes black. Suddenly, the Empress's voice rings in his ears, and Bastian finds himself face to face with her. In her outstretched hand, she holds a grain of sand, the last remains of Fantasia. She entrusts this to Bastian and says that through his imagination, Fantasia will live again, as long as he keeps wishing. Bastian then begins to wish, and finds himself on Falkor's back, flying through the landscape of Fantasia, seeing it return to normal, including seeing Atreyu reuniting with his horse Artax, alive and well. Falkor then asks Bastian what his next wish is. Bastian thinks, and he whispers into the dragon's ears, causing Falkor to laugh loudly. Back in the human world, Bastian's bullies are back in the alley where they threw Bastian into the dumpster. Then, Falkor and Bastian appear flying down from the sky, chasing them down the alley. One of the bullies falls into a clump of garbage, while the others jump into the same dumpster that they had put Bastian in. Falkor swoops upwards, laughing victoriously. Bastian made many more wishes and had many more exciting adventures before finally returning to the ordinary world. But that's another story.